Gotcha.
Okay, you're all set.
We're live streaming, and we'll just give it another minute for anyone that is watching. We're just waiting on one more council member. That's the first time I saw that, Mara. It says you can release your video order here.
I don't know. They're adding new functions all the time, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Kim, any answer? Okay. We're going to get rolling. I want to welcome folks. This is a budget finance workshop regarding the City Council's recommendations to the mayor's proposed 2022 budget. I want to welcome everyone, and Councilmember Gully has joined us. We have not even taken roll call yet, so you're perfectly timed. Yes, timing is perfect. So if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Councilmember Ash McPherson to lead us in the pledge. And I did bring our trusty flag that I had to tape and has been around since COVID began. Go ahead, Councilmember.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Ash McPherson. We'll do a quick roll call. Councilmember Gully.
Here.
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Here.
Councilmember Steele.
Present.
Councilmember Cummings.
Present.
Councilmember Zaluski.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Council President Mantello, I am here. All 7 are present. We are also joined by the mayor. Hello, Mayor. Monica Kuzieski, our deputy mayor. Hello, Monica. And Andy Petrowski, our comptroller, who worked very diligently this afternoon, crunching some numbers. So I kind of want to kick it off. Tonight, there's no votes, discussion only. I'll give an overview, and then I'll ask my minority colleagues to jump in case something I missed, whatever. We have about 15 proposals. You know, obviously, if there's more to discuss, this is the time to do it. We're scheduled to vote on the proposed budget with or without amendments next week. Tomorrow night's the public hearing. And you know, we've all sat through many numerous hours discussing the mayor's proposed budget with department heads, with supervisors, employees. And, you know, I really want to thank the mayor, Monica, and Andy, and all the department heads who, you know, spent countless hours with us to sift through the budget. Listen, we all know there's never a budget that makes everybody happy. But as the minority, you know, we're working through the committee meetings. We discussed after each of the committee meetings kind of our thoughts. And, you know, I want to thank the chairs of the committees. I thought your reports were, you know, really like detailed, which is very good, recounting much of what happened at those sometimes 3, 4 hour, 5 hour committee meetings. So, you know, I must say we've come a long way from when I was first on the council in the mid to late 90s. Yes, you know, we scrutinized the budget, but, you know, I really think just the information we're receiving from Andy and the questions and just obviously going line by line with department heads. We learn a lot about what's happening in terms of the day-to-day, but also our employees and what's happening in each of the departments. So I think the council minority, what we felt after really, crunching numbers, talking to department heads, we really feel that this budget adds more positions than we'd like to see. And what we want to see is, in a couple committee meetings, and I don't plan to pinpoint certain people, no names mentioned, not even the committee meeting. But we felt that in some of the committee meetings, when justifying some of the additional positions, while there were also vacant positions, and some of the vacant positions have been open in 2021 and just recently filled. Saying all of that, recognizing there's a workforce shortage, we all know it's no secret out there that right now, whether it be emergency personnel, whether it be CDL licensing, whether it be laborers, whether it be welders, I hear from other state agencies, it's a very tough market, and we all see for help signs all over, not just our city, but all throughout the state and the nation. So we really felt, let's challenge our departments to really think more creatively. And let's really challenge the administration to kind of cross-sector some of our departments that we felt during the committee meetings might be almost working in a little bit of a vacuum rather than more functioning synergistically and together. So saying all of that, one of our major themes in our proposal is to really try to capitalize on our existing staff, on our existing manpower, and really in some of the departments, seeing more of a plan. I'll give you maybe an example of one of the things that I saw, and then I'll pass that along to my other colleagues. But one of the things that really jumped out at me, for instance, was in code enforcement. And in code enforcement, we recognize there's a lot of work. At the same time, there's some existing positions, one or two people have left. And at the same time, there's 2 positions created in the proposed budget. While we're not adamantly opposed about adding certain positions, at this time we are, because we'd rather see a detailed plan, a more specific plan on how that department is going to cross-sector with other departments and really create a synergy to work together to tackle a lot of the code issues in our city. So in answer to that, 3 or 4 major proposals out of our proposed amendments is a quality of life task force. And we know that the administration has tackled a block here and there, but we feel it's been very reactive. We want to see a more detailed, concentrated effort. What we're proposing, and if you look, budget amendments are not needed for that. That's just more coordination, efficiency in our departments. And we really feel like, obviously, it's not something we can implement, but we are recommending that a task force like that be implemented by the administration and the various departments that we identified, such as our community police officer, litter patrol, legal, code enforcement, and any other DPW, obviously, and any other department that's needed. So that's a major proposal. Additionally, and I feel very strongly about this, is, I think overall, I felt that the budget did not work hard enough, and that the administration didn't work hard enough to get that property tax down to 0. And I think through our amendments, we certainly could get that property tax down to 0. So, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about our amendments. One of the other major proposals in our amendments is the reassessment, the citywide reassessment. And as we all know, it did get a little hot the other night. I know we're all passionate. And, I know that we all recognize we need to get our valuation up to 100%. But saying that, we feel very strongly now is not the time. We're very concerned of the volatile housing market. We're concerned of the timing of the reassessment. And so saying that we did take out, you'll see in our amendments, and Andy corrected it, we took out this year and next year. So we didn't take out this year's through the budget amendments. We could only take out next year. So what we'll have to do, should the new majority decide to do it, should this get voted and should it pass, we would take the other 125 out in 2022 to the 2021 budget. But saying that, we have a ways to go. We have discussion tonight. You're also going to see the diversity officer and some other proposed positions we kept in. We felt in certain departments that the position might have been warranted. The diversity officer, I want to preface, Andy did contact me regarding the diversity officer. And if we did pass that next week, it would go into personnel rather than the mayor's office. So we'll talk about that also. So saying that, overall theme, more coordination, more efficiency in-house, less proposed staffing, new positions, and fill some of the vacant positions, but more efficiency and coordination, synergy we'd like to see. So saying all that, I'll pass it along to my other minority colleagues because we don't have a proposal by the majority in terms of specific amendments. So, we're curious where the majority is thinking. And, I did hear, you can fill us in, and you'd like to see certain proposals reduced, but no specific proposals. So saying that, I'm not sure if Councilmember Gully or Councilmember Ash McPherson want to chip in. We can delve right into the amendments. I don't know if any other council members have, anything overall to say before we go. Yeah, Councilmember Gully.
Let me get that off of mute. I'd just like to say that we looked at every avenue we could that was feasible, not just strike everything, but just work at pieces that we thought we could flex out of the budget to create a better scenario for the taxpayers. No matter what we do, no matter what we think, we serve 50,000 people around us, and we have to look at what we can do to, watch over their checkbook. That being said, I was in our address, I was excited to see that. I hope that we can work towards a temp employee program moving forward. I think that, like most major corporations are looking to these days, it allows you to have a great resource in your back pocket and a great vetting service for the future of your operations and the future of the growth in the city. I really like that, and I hope that we can work towards that. And I don't see how the union leaders could ever have any issues with it, because it just creates more union members for them. So I think it's a win-win, and I think that if we look at it strongly, we work at it, we can help some of the problems we have, and maybe not have to rush to just put full-time positions in there to fill a need. I do think that we need to work on a few pieces that we have working in our operations now to maybe get them more efficient. And I think there is a way to do that. And I don't think just filling in more people when we have open spots is a way to do that. So I'd like to kind of, see if we can settle in with what we got and see what we do to really help the city start to grow efficiently. Other than that, after talking to one of the majority members, I realized that we're thinking the same path. We just have to figure out how we get there together, So I hope that tonight we can communicate well, collaborate well, and figure out what we do to really make some things happen that are good for the city and good moving forward for our operations. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Billy.
Chair?
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the administration. Thank you to, our minority. We've all put a lot of work into this. As we all know, it's not easy doing these budgets and sitting down and going over everything. And sometimes it looks like we're picking things apart we're doing it to look for more efficient ways to get things done. And with that said, there's things that room for improvement in a lot of different areas. And so by looking at different areas and looking to see where we could save taxpayer dollars, that's what we spent on going through the budget line by line, trying to say where we could save money, where we could work on efficiencies in more departments. So like Councilman Gully said, and like our chair, council president said, we're here to work together to try to get through this and try to make it for the people that we represent. So thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Ash McPherson. I don't know if you guys are ready. We can delve right into it. I don't know if the majority wants to talk about any proposals that they, plan to put forward, or what the game plan is on your end.
Yeah, Council President, I have nothing right now. I just want to hear what Andy has to say about your proposals, and then we can talk about overall, what we're trying to achieve. But I want to see what, how Andy handles what you've put forth already.
Okay. I love, that we're getting scrutinized. It really would have been great to have proposals from all ends. Saying that, we'll delve into our proposals. Two major things, as I have mentioned, Andy did up a worksheet for us, which was awesome. And half of the 250 of the reassessment, you'll see, was obviously unable. It's not in next year's proposed budget. However, it will carry over. So when we get to that proposal, we can talk about that. The other thing is, last year we had put 30%, which included health and retirement, onto the position. Andy did call me, and he stated that that's done at the end of the year for each department. I'll let him talk about that, but so that number has changed. However, Social Security will be in that number. So anyway, we'll get right to it. We'll go in order because we went department by department. So let me pull it up. So our first proposal, the Director of Diverse Equality and Inclusion. We spent a lot of time talking about this new proposal in the mayor's budget. And, I think initially when I first saw it, at least when the mayor proposed it back in October, I had thought more, because the PRCC was mentioned as a part of this. But then as we got through the committee meeting, we heard that this really was an in-house hiring type of effort. We spent a lot of time talking about this. The mayor gave his justification in terms of the salary. Our proposal is Councilmember Ash McPherson and us really feel strongly that this not be a political position, and that the position actually be a civil service position. And then B, we did reduce the salary from 65 to 50, and we're on page 28. If anyone wants to open their budgets to that page. So Essentially that's our first proposal. We felt that the mayor gave a good justification for that position, but we'd like to change it in terms of the structure and reduce the salary from 65 to 50. So Councilmember Ashley McPherson, I don't know if you want to add, and then we'll open it up to council members.
Yeah, thank you. So when this was proposed on here in my questions, and I asked the mayor on this, I don't feel that this should be appointed. It's a very important position that we need to have if we're going to have it. And I feel it should be in our HR, and I feel it should be a civil service. It shouldn't be an appointment. And as the mayor said, he wanted it, somebody that he could work closely with. And I get that. I truly do understand that. But it's such an important position. And if in 2 years our mayor is gone and have a new mayor coming in and that person doesn't fit with the new mayor, my concern is how is that going to work? So I'd rather see this as a civil service position. We looked into seeing classes that can be taken by our HR. I think it was, and I'll let Councilman Gully elaborate on that. Take classes and get them equipped and understand the process of that. We all need to do something within our departments to bring in more diversity into our jobs. And I think it's very important that we make it civil service and not an appointment position.
I think Councilmember Gully, you did have a couple of good ideas. We kind of went back and forth on this one because obviously, we felt, hopefully everything and anything is being done to recruit more minorities and inclusion. But I think Councilmember Gully also had some good ideas.
Thank you, Council President. Well, the reality was I reached out to a few business guys that I know, and we were talking about this position so I could find how it affects the corporate world. And a lot of them told me what they're doing is certifying their HR departments through training programs that are available to get the education on how to implement that type of process throughout the HR department. And, it wasn't adding another employee. It was just, getting the training. And I don't know if that's feasible or possible with the laws for municipality, but I just thought that might be something that we could look into, which would then save the taxpayers the position and the long-term expense. But I'm not sure what you can do with a municipality.
So, and, we're not taking votes tonight, tonight's discussion. And, so I don't know if anyone from the majority wants to talk about it, or if the mayor, if he wanted to weigh in on civil service versus, a political appointment and your thoughts on that, or mayoral appointment. Okay, no discussion?
Go ahead. Mayor, I'd like to say a couple words.
Cool.
So I appreciate the comments, but point of fact, there's nobody in the personnel department that can take this on. This is not a part-time effort. You see the results of a part-time effort, and that is no results. The gravity of this work demands the mayor, whether it be me or my successor, their total commitment and heavy involvement and heavy direction. The cut in the salary, I frankly think, is an insult to the effort. The people who occupy these positions and are effective are paid closer to $90,000 a year locally. And I can give you names and numbers, but I won't do that publicly. I will be happy to do that privately. The message I received repeatedly from them is don't undercompensate in this position. And I frankly was a little bit embarrassed to put the number $65,000 in there because I did feel we were undercompensating given the local market. But I also recognize the salary scales that we have here in the city of Troy, and they do tend to be lower than we see in other surrounding municipalities and educational institutions. So I think, A, it would be a grave mistake to cut the salary for this position. I will reiterate, I think it's an insult to the effort, and I do not make political appointments. I make appointments based on people's qualifications, and you see that sitting next to me right now. This is not a political appointment. This is choosing a person who I can work closely with to affect the goals of this important program, this important effort for the city of Troy.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. We'll consider, everything that you have stated in the minority. What we plan to do is, post discussion, not tonight, but over the next couple of days, we'll take into consideration everything that's discussed tonight. Okay? All right, so,
Council President?
sure. Yep.
Just one follow-up piece of that, and depending on where the position ends up through the proposed amendments that come through, just keeping in mind that outside of what the mayor just stated, in the personnel department, when you look at the personnel in that department, the individual would probably, because it will be a civil service position, so it will be a tested position. Even though UPSU, and I think Andy talked to you earlier, maybe about the UPSU positions, it would probably be more in line in position. I'm just saying position and responsibilities with what the personnel associate or the healthy safety coordinator in between that area, just because of what the work they're going to be doing and the responsibilities they'll be taking on. It'd be something similar to that. So just to take that into concept and chew on it for a little bit, okay?
Perfect, thank you. And Andy and I, we actually did not get that far in terms of like what union or anything like that. What we had talked about, like Andy actually said, if you want to turn it into a civil service position, it would probably, if we felt fit better under the personnel office. So, also honestly, we would also keep it in the mayor's office if, obviously the mayor as the department have felt more comfortable with that position. At least me, I'm not tied, mayor's office, civil service, and but we are tied to turning it into a civil service appointment. So, but yeah, we'll definitely take into consideration everything that's discussed tonight.
Council President, just
sure.
a follow-up question on that.
Mhm.
Andy, to clarification, are we saying that the diversity director is going to be civil service or not?
We're proposing the minority.
I know you're proposing, but I thought I heard someone else say that it will be.
I haven't heard that.
All the comments that we have gotten are to give information to the city council in when they make their recommendations. We're just providing information.
Council President.
Council Member Zaluski, you all set?
No, that didn't answer my question, but that's fine.
Okay. Council Member Cummings.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to follow up on the question to try to get it answered. So Monica did just say it would be civil service. That was a would be if these amendments were taken into account, not that you were planning that to be the case. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I said if it
Okay.
was to be a civil service position and located in the personnel, to make sure with the salary that it would be more in line with those two other positions, not below the personnel technician. Personnel technician is the person who answers the phone and is at the door versus
Right.
the person who is doing the other work.
Understood. Okay. And certainly from our discussions of it at the previous meeting, it interfaced with personnel to some degree, but it was far broader in terms of almost workforce development as well. Is that still your understanding, Mayor? That's my understanding of why it makes some sense to be outside of the personnel department itself, but I would like a little bit of feedback on that vision.
Yes, that's true. I agree with that. Both development, both internally and externally, developing candidates for positions, people who may not be working here, and also developing people who are here for eventual transition into higher responsibly higher positions. Sorry.
Are there any civil service employees within the mayor's department now?
No.
Didn't think. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, further comments? Anyone? Okay, the next one, we are looking at purchasing, and you'll see on page 42, the proposed finance contracts and procurement senior account clerk for 50, well, 42 is proposed at 38,840. We're proposing to eliminate that position. And, you know, we're open for discussion. Okay, number 3, the assessment, Office of Assessment, page 46. We talked about this pretty extensively the other night.
Sorry, Council President, I did want to discuss the eliminating the procurements clerk. You know, I think we're seeing over and over that contracts, we tend to just go to state contract. My hope is that having a clerk means we can have more RFPs for more things. Is that the idea? Andy, Monica, I know that process is very involved and we haven't always had the time to do it. But certainly I think, you know, that position, if we were able to go out to bid on things, and you know, there's several things I can think of off the bat that it would be great to be able to have RFPs go out and not necessarily just go with whatever the state contract is.
It's funny.
So, to be honest with you,
Go ahead, Monica.
more often than not, Councilman Cummings, we actually do go out to RFP or bid or solicit quotes rather than go on state contract. So not sure where your generalization is coming from, other than potentially this last week's interaction between that and the website work, but we do benefit obviously from the work that the state does in their contracts and procurement, just like we piggyback off the county when they do their solicitations as well. But we do more often than not actually go to RFP, seek bids, or get quotes for any of our work. We follow our procurement policy as close as we can.
Understood.
Yeah, I was going to respond. They're all out for RFP, Councilmember Cummings, and quite frankly, the piggybacks actually save us money. Maybe, you know, one out of 20 might not, but for the most part, the piggybacks and piggybacking with the county and some of the state contracts save us much more money. So I don't really know where you're going with the clerk, but having a senior account clerk isn't going to get us more RFPs because they're RFP'd now. You know, we're taking everything under consideration. So the proposed assessment clerk in the Bureau of Assessments, page 46. You know, we looked at this office extensively, and you know, the citywide reassessment, that proposal will be taken from 250 to 125. And then next year, should the new majority decide to reduce the 125, if the 125 were to be passed, to be taken out, what we're recommending is a pause in the citywide reassessment. I think we really went knee deep and really into that the other night. So I don't know if we want to rehash that. But we feel very strongly about this. We feel the market is volatile. We're very concerned. I know that somebody had said, it's never a good time for a reassessment, but at the same time, it is never a good time. But on top of the pandemic, we really feel is doubly not a good time. So without getting into, I know we all got really hot last time. We'll keep it at that, but we do feel strongly about that. We are proposing to eliminate the assessment clerk that Sharon has proposed at 37,331. And so saying that, we feel that 2 folks in that office are plenty. If she does, Charity, the majority hired Gar last week through finance. So we'll see what happens at the regular meeting in December. But we really feel the assessment has to be put on pause, and that the proposed assessment clerk, we do not support that position. So I don't know if Councilmember Gully or Ash McPherson want to add to that. Okay. The next, yep, Councilmember Gully.
Look, I will tell you that I am in favor of the reassessment. I am. But I also think that valid points were brought up that this is just a really crazy time for us because 1, the real estate market is a little volatile. And 2, these assessments will not be complete till 2023. I reached out to some friends I have in different businesses and I've talked to them and they just said, hey, it's kind of crazy to think about that. And I said, well, we want to put it off a year. They said, well, that's probably not a bad idea because you don't know what's going to happen in the market over the year. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Steele, if you want to take your phone off of mute, then I can listen to your argument. But other than that, I have the floor, dear. I'm sorry. But I'm just saying that, for me, I don't have the answer. So I have to reach out to people in these fields to get answers. So I just talk to people who are professionals in these fields. So this is not my answer. This is information gotten from people who work in these areas. And holding it off, like I said, we're not looking to eliminate it. Just pushing it back 1 year, it means it comes into effect in 2024. And I doubt we're going to fall that far off of the shelf from 85% over the next 12 months, just to kind of lighten the pressure on our taxpayers who've been through quite a bit. There are a lot of landlords out there who have not received money. Some people have used these excuses not to pay their landlords. There's a lot of people that are hurting financially, and some are getting relief, but some are not. Okay, so it's not as though there's not relief out there, but not all of them are getting it. So, I am for the reassessment, but I do agree that timing is really not in a spot where it should be. So that's it. I'm just voicing my opinion based on information I got.
Thanks, Councilmember Gully.
Council President?
Yep,
Yeah,
Councilmember.
I'll just comment on that briefly. First of all, I know Councilman Gully talks about professionals and what they have to say. I would say that Sharon Martin is probably the best professional we could be talking to, since she's actually in the business of assessment. And her not to overuse the word, but her assessment of the situation is that we should move forward with this. I tend to trust her. Also, with regard to timing, again, these would not take effect until sometime in 2023. So we should hopefully be long out of the pandemic by the time that property owners are realizing the changes to their assessments, which is unfortunate for those that it goes up. It's also unfortunate for those people right now that are overpaying, as I mentioned last time, the 1/3 of the thousands of people in the city of Troy that are currently paying more than they should. And that why should they have to wait until 2023 to start paying less? But we recognize that it can't happen that fast. So as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with getting started right now, because none of this is actually going to happen until not only after this council, probably not until after the next council will people be seeing their actual assessments changing. So I don't see any need to delay it. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Councilmember Zaluski, anyone else?
Council President, I'd just like to make a note.
Yep.
I respect Sharon Martin greatly, and I never at one time mentioned that her professionalism was any less or any less of a value to us as anyone I spoke to. So please, I would rather put my own words when it comes to the individuals I speak about.
Council President, just to be very clear, I never made any reference to Councilman Gully saying that Sharon's not a professional. So just don't take offense to what I'm saying. You said you talked to professionals. I'm saying that I consider Sharon Martin to be the consummate professional when it comes to assessments. That's all.
Okay, I just want to make sure there was no insinuation or indication there, because I'm not that kind of guy. And don't worry about my emotions, Ken. I
Yes,
put them away when I come to these meetings because you can't handle it if I did.
right. Just want to be clear.
Absolutely.
Just want to be clear.
And you all know my feelings on this. We went knee deep the other night. I had talked about the landlords who have had tenants who have not paid for months, if not close to a year. I'm talking egregious, who are taking advantage of the system. And I feel very, very strongly pausing it. And I know it was mentioned 2023, but we will be here in 2023, the new council. And as Council Member Gully stated, pausing it for a year, I think makes sense. It also allows folks who are under tremendous stress right now, paying their bills, paying their mortgage, paying their utilities, heating, we're going to get socked over the next 3-4 months. So saying that, I feel very, very strongly. And this budget, as I mentioned before, I think it misses the taxpayers and the residents in terms of what's being put on their shoulders. And I just think if we can make a statement in this budget for 2022, that, hey, you know what, we recognize you're under a lot of stress. We're going to try to get that property tax down to 0. We're going to try to reduce the garbage, the annual fee. We're going to create a quality of life task force to try to get our streets cleaner. And then we're going to pause the reassessment. I just think it's a really good message. And I think taxpayers and residents would really benefit. So we'll definitely take under consideration everything that was talked about the other night and tonight, because we did talk about extensively the other night. The next one, the Corporation Counsel's Office, the minority on this one, page 54, we recognize, listen, I got to tell you, I have worked now for 5 different corporation councils during my mid-90s and my late 20s for Pat Morphy and, some different corporation councils. And then obviously when the mayor and I first came in, I got to tell you, Kevin Glasheen, that poor guy, man, he was working weekends. He had to have been putting in like 60 hours a week. Saying that, since I have been on the council, and actually Council Member Gully and Council Member Ash McPherson, you came in at that time, and then Council Member Ash McPherson had 2 years. But saying that, we're seeing this budget increase substantially. And one of the things that we're concerned about are the outside consultants. Now, I must say, Council Member Gully did bring up that we did have a couple major lawsuits. However, I think the insurance might have paid for some of that. So we recently amended the budget to add $250 to the Corporation Council's total outside counsel budget. So what I did, I kind of went back to 2016, went over the years, and by December, once we passed that budget amendment that was passed last week, we're looking at $625,000 for outside consulting in the Corp Counsel's office. So what we're saying is we'll keep one of the deputies that Rick has proposed, and we're proposing that Rick, the Corporation Counsel, bring in the outside consulting. So saying that, We're strongly recommending reining in outside consultants. We're proposing to keep one of the positions that Rick has proposed, Deputy Court Counsel, recognizing his workload. But we, as I said, we feel very strongly that the outside consultants get reined in. So saying that, you know, we're open for discussion, I'll pass that along to my minority colleagues. Did I miss anything? Okay. So that's our proposal on that one, but we do recognize the workload. We did not want that fact diminished. Personnel and civil service, page 50. We're proposing the new position, the personnel technician. We understand the health and safety coordinator that the council majority, or I should say the council passed in the 2021 budget, that was recently filled. We really feel now that that's filled, the personnel technician, we just feel is unnecessary, and we're proposing to eliminate that proposed position, and that position's at $48,550 on page 58. I'll open it up to my minority. Anything? Okay. The next, the traffic engineer, page 62. We're proposing, I know that I did talk to Andy about these, about two positions in particular that the administration proposes not to fill until some in March, some in June. I believe that this is a June one. What we're proposing at this time is, I know it states that the savings of 15, et cetera, we're proposing not to fill it. We'll review it in June of 2022. But right now we would defund that position. We'll re-review it, what we would like to see. Aaron, we know, we talked about Aaron, we like what he's doing with the department, but recognizing that we do have on-call consultants and we utilize them quite a bit. What we would like to get a better handle on is where is Aaron with the on-call consulting, traffic engineer. We just felt that the justification for that was not where we wanted to be at this time. So we would re-review that, the new council coming in, and should Aaron really, make a point by that time in terms of the outside consultants and how that's all going to gel, we just felt at this time the traffic engineer position is not needed. Council minority, did I miss anything? Okay. The next one, we propose to keep, I have quite a bit of interaction with Bill Wangler and that particular department, building facilities maintenance. And so on page 70, we really felt, they really are producing, et cetera. We felt that Bill had good justification, and we proposed to keep the building maintenance mechanic. So the building maintenance mechanic, 44627, we proposed to keep that position. We felt.
Council President?
Yep, one sec. We felt that Bill really justified. No problem. Go ahead, Monica.
So that building maintenance technician or mechanic is actually the facilities department, which is Sean Kiley's department, not Bill Wangler's department.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We felt that particular department did give good justification for that position. So my notes are scribbled. So minority, did I miss anything? Okay. Number 9, we propose right now the data communication analyst on page 78. We like what Quinn is doing. We feel, Quinn did a good job just, explaining maybe what's on the horizon. This particular position, we would like to get a better grip on not just 2022, but 2023. And so what we're proposing is to not fill that and revisit it potentially in June. But right now, we feel that the data communication analyst, the new position, page 101, I believe, no, page 78, we're proposing not to fill that at this time. So that is at $59,518. Council minority, Councilmember Gully, I think you had some thoughts on this, or maybe not. They all blend.
No, I think you covered everything we talked about.
Okay. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Also, okay. Number 10, page 101, we'll go into our parking department. As you know, in last year's budget, the council minority actually proposed, I did put page 101. I think I put the wrong page. Councilmember Ash McPherson, you were my page person. Hold on. Let's see, it's got to be right after public safety. Parking, sorry, 107.
109.
Yep, 107
Sorry.
starts it. That's okay. So number 10, we talked about this quite a bit. Last year, the council minority actually proposed not to have a parking operations supervisor for $60,000, and we felt pretty strongly about that. Moving into 2022, we feel even stronger that the senior parking enforcement officer at 36,679, we really did not hear the justification for that. We'd like to see a strategic plan by that particular department. And as we said with all of these positions, come next year, mid-year, we'll reevaluate. If they come to us with a detailed plan, we will revisit their needs. But right now, we just feel the senior parking enforcement officer was not justified during the committee meeting. Number 11, we just want to spend a little time on this one. So this is our code enforcement office. Obviously, page 122, this is a really, really obviously important office, has a direct impact on our residents, our taxpayers. Really, we feel, this is just me. I don't want to speak for Kim and Jim on this one, but I do want to say, I really felt during the committee meeting that there was a real missing piece on this. And I am not going to name names or anything. I felt that 2 positions were kind of thrown in the budget without a detailed, strategic, proactive plan. Obviously, we're calling for a quality of life task force that takes incredible, coordination. It's not rocket science, but coordination, synergy within the departments. And obviously, code is a hub of that. But we just felt, I did at least, and I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I just felt during that committee meeting, we didn't get details. I found out at that committee meeting, somebody had left, and there's a vacant spot. And then we found out that there were actually 2 vacant positions, and at the same time proposing new ones. And we just felt like overall there was not a strategic, detailed plan for 2022. I must tell you on this one, we do feel strongly, this is a super important office. We feel strongly that this office needs just better coordination, better plan, and that they've become more reactive where we want to see a more proactive plan. So we'd like to see the acting director with his staff really focus on re-energizing, reorganizing the department before adding 2 new positions. So we're not closed and we're not closing the door on the 2 new positions because we do feel it's a critical department, but we are saying we really need to see a better coordinated, detailed strategic plan in that office. We really I felt that there was really something missing from that committee meeting. So I don't know if my minority colleagues want to jump in.
We're gonna jump off for a second. We're having a little bit of trouble with our phone here. We're gonna dial back in because it's coming up choppy. We only heard about a third of what you just said. All right.
Okay, I
So just in case. No. Just in case somebody asks us a question, we'll be right back.
We're gonna wait and have you come right back. Thank you.
I'll just say on that front, certainly from my watching the department, the clerk position seems like it's incredibly important. The amount of work that paperwork in the office, answering calls, etc., that needs to get done, and that is currently being done by enforcement officers that could otherwise be out on the street, is certainly something that I think justifies that position. More broadly, I think I would hope that the next council is going to continue to work towards some kind of residential occupancy program that would need even more staff in that department. So while I understand your point, I think pulling back on staff at this point isn't necessarily the way to get there. I think maybe some hands-on work.
Thanks, Councilmember Cummings. And listen, I'm half with you there, but I'm not 100% sold. I really want to see, at least for me, and I'm 107, I just want to see better coordination, and just I really felt like when asking questions and kind of going back and forth, there were a lot of missing pieces. And I just felt, especially with this department, it has so much potential and such an impact on community, or on our community and neighborhoods and residents. I really just felt like there's just not synergy happening right now in their department. But I do get what you're saying. Thank you. Okay. The next one, we'll just keep rolling. They'll be back on shortly, hopefully. The next one, street maintenance. We talked about this extensively, number 12 and page 131. And what we'd like to see from street maintenance, and I'll let Councilmember Gully talk about this too. We propose eliminating, right now, let's first talk about what the administration proposed. And so if you turn to 131, for street maintenance, I apologize, 131, okay, there's actually two laborers, I should say, yeah, 2 laborers, and then I believe 2, an MEO light, and I believe also an MEO heavy, maybe MEO light, I'm sorry. what we're proposing here is keeping one of the laborers, eliminating at this time funding for an MEO light and one laborer. We're proposing to fill the vacant positions. We know obviously it's a tough time to fill positions, especially when we get to DPW. It's a challenge, and we heard that from our folks. We're also proposing to add $30,000 to the temporary salaries portion. And what we'd like to see is more of an effort, since they are having a hard time filling full-time positions and filling some of the vacancies. What we're proposing in the interim is to get them some part-time help, keep one of the laborers, and put together a comprehensive plan before creating positions. And we really want these vacant positions filled, but we obviously want to assist them and provide them the tools they need. So I'll hand you off to Councilmember Gully, who may want to add on that one.
Well, Council President and guys, listen. The fact is that we're always running short every day. We're losing out on laborers. We're losing out on people who show up to work, whether they're sick or out on some other issue. I believe that moving in, and I don't know, like, Monica, I don't know if this is possible. I know you'll have your negotiations with the union leaders, but again, I can't see a loss for them because they're picking up union members. But if we could make some creative type of temporary salary program where we would have a draw for employees, you say, in the labor field, maybe even MEO lights, but I'm just saying, if we have that draw, then we can always fill those spots. If street is short one day or sanitation short one day, we have a pool to resource to keep the efficiency level of the program moving effectively each day. We fill the voids in there, and it's a great way to bring in people that are looking for future jobs with the city. There's a savings there until they reach that plateau of finding a job with the city. And it also gives the administrations a chance and the managers a chance to kind of vet through some people to see, what their work habits are and how they work out in the atmosphere that we provide them for employment. I think it has win-win written all over it, and I hope it can be done. I hope that we can push towards it, and we'll see what happens. But that was the idea behind moving money into the temporary salaries, so it could be used in that way.
Okay. I see someone with their hand raised.
Council President.
Yes, Monica.
First of all, just a couple clarifications, and then something that Andy and I have been talking about that would also talk about what Councilman Gully was just talking about. So just since they're temporary positions, they aren't represented in the union. So we do have those anyway. So as far as that part goes, one of the things that Andy and Chuck and I have been talking about as a proposal is to actually take all of the general services overtime, including parks and streets and whatever other department would have part-time 102 salaries or funding in it, and actually move it into a 102 line in the admin department, and that way it can be utilized wherever the need is versus within a certain department. So if streets, going back to what Councilman Gully was just saying, if streets needed temporary help on any particular day, it would just be funded out of the general services admin line rather than in the individual departments on a and that would also help look at where the funding is at that moment in time, so you can kind of keep an easier eye on it versus across a whole bunch of different departments. So that is something that could be considered by the council as well.
I like that. We did something like that at Canal, Monica. We had a pot of money because we couldn't fill positions. We have laborers, welders, et cetera, similar to DPW and some of the other departments, and they did have just a part-time temporary work program. So, okay, further discussion. Okay, number 13, The Parks Department, page 143. In this area right now, we really want to see in the Parks Department just an overall comprehensive plan. We know the $2 million that the council has appropriated. The outside consultants, they've obviously they have, I should say, put a plan together for our pocket parks, the Nick and other parks, saying that, you know, we want to see an overall plan for our Parks Department, which also includes the 2 mil. And just in terms of staffing, we feel right now that the recreation attendant and recreation maintenance worker 2, we're proposing to eliminate funding for those, but revisit in June after the Parks Department, should they come to the council with an overall comprehensive plan for their department and the parks. I don't know if Jim or Tim want to add to that.
Council President, I actually have a question.
Oh, sure. Council members, Lucy.
Going back to number 12, your calculations are always 1.3 based on salary, right? In other words, you're going up by 30% on the listed salary. So for example, the MEO light, that salary was 38,840. You multiply it by 1.3, you get 50,492. So on the laborer, I think the original, I just think there's a miscalculation, which is why I wanted to go back to it.
Sure.
So that laborer was at 34,933, right? And if you multiply that by the 1.3, you get 45,412.90, not 47,682. So I just wanted to.
Sorry. And just so you know, Andy actually recalculated these. As I mentioned, last year we did 30% because I had thought that health and retirement, it's done a little differently now. And so what Andy did was just put Social Security in for now, and their health and retirement, and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, that's done at the end of the year, correct?
So pension is not included because we budget to the grand total of the estimates and projections provided by the New York State Retirement System. If council members recall, last year at the end of the amendment process, the night of the budget vote, there had been about 30-minute break so I could recalculate what pension would be by department. The grand total remains the same. It's just a matter of how it's dispersed amongst departments. It is a very detailed process in itself, but the grand total will not change. For health insurance, the beginning point of health insurance is the most recent claims data that an actuary analyzes and projects out for the next fiscal year. We budget for the self-insured plan, which is what every active employee is enrolled in. The grand total of the amount budgeted for the self-insured plan is based off of the grand total provided by the actuary. So there would be no amendments to either pension or health insurance.
Gotcha.
It's similar to what was done in last year's budget vote and prior.
So thank you, Councilmember Zaluski. So that number will be amended.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks. And so in parks, we proposed, fill vacant positions, develop a comprehensive plan. The 2 positions that are proposed, I think there might have been 2 positions, and fill the vacant, and we would revisit that in June.
Council President?
Sure, Monica.
Just a clarification, the positions that were proposed were an April 1st start date, and it was a laborer and a recreation maintenance worker 2. These are people who are in the field actually doing the maintenance work for the parks that we've all built and are building. And then you've actually, or the minorities, not you, sorry, proposed the recreation attendant, which is the one that was just vacated, that we have an active list for. and then one of the ones that we proposed. So are you proposing to leave the laborer position as proposed in the budget,
Yes.
but you're going to eliminate an existing position that was?
No, we'll take a second look at that. All right, let's talk offline, Monica, on that, okay? We don't want to eliminate an existing position. That's not our intent, okay?
Yeah, Council President.
So real quick, so that one is vacant, the recreation attendant. See, we had 2 laborers, and I know that they have a number of vacancies.
There are no vacancies in the recreations department other than the youth services specialist, which I explained completely on that one.
Right.
And the
Yep.
recreation attendant, which just vacated in October. That is now your new housing or health and safety coordinator.
Okay.
There's no other vacancy in that department.
Okay, and then 2 new positions, you have a laborer and you have a recreation maintenance worker too.
Correct. Those were new in the field staff members to be able to support the new parks that we've built.
And the recreation attendant, that one's filled. Correct?
The recreation attendant is the one that just vacated.
It just
That's
vacated.
the one that is just
Okay.
transferred 2 weeks ago to the health and safety coordinator.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Okay, we'll take a relook at this. Councilmember Zaluski?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, with the amount of investment that we're making in parks, I'm less likely to want to, skimp out on the maintenance of those parks, right? Because this is our big complaint from, the beginning of time is, the city of Troy doesn't maintain its parks. And now we're going to dump a ton of money into the parks. And the last thing we want to do is, not maintain what we're investing in. So, I'm this one I'm a little less comfortable with.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, Noah. So we also want to see the outside. I do know we get some help from outside firms, not the consulting firms planning the parks, but maintenance wise. So we want to get a better grip on that also. Councilmember Zaluski, I know that we have some landscaping companies that help us out. And we'd like to just get a better grip on what exactly is happening and see more of a comprehensive plan. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep. And I also understand the desire to take a look at management and make sure that things are being managed correctly as well. So.
Good. Councilmember Gully? Yeah, Councilmember Gully.
My thought would be that if Monica and Andy are able to condense the temporary salaries into that administrative line, they could draw from that pool for people to go over and cut the grass at the parks and keep them up. And it would certainly be a lot more fiscally prudent on us to look at that as a tool moving forward in all departments. And this department is one where we could really, use that type of work. And individuals in there taking care of the parks. I mean, just my thought. I don't know if it's possible, but hey, just a thought.
Maybe even if we did eliminate, put more money in the temporary, but we'll take everything discussed and look at that one. But I do like the idea of the temporary pool. And then lastly, the garbage fund. So with this one, once again, we'd like to use more temporary laborers. And what we're proposing is to eliminate one of the 2 sanitation person positions and put more money into the temporary labor to try to, because they're having such a tough time. Tom is having a very tough time, workforce shortage. filling positions, and we really felt with this one, let's try to get some temporary workforce while he's having a tough time filling positions, keeping one of the 2 new positions that he had proposed. And so in this one, Andy did correct me, and I apologize because we looked at this one and I had thought that there was temporary 40K and that we would add 50 to make it 95. Blah, blah, blah. No, hold on. So in this one, we propose to add 40 for a total of 65. There's 25 in there, and we propose to add 40 to the temporary salaries line to total 65.
Council President,
Yes, Monica.
just another clarification. There are no vacant positions in the sanitation department. There are positions where we have members out on workers' comp, but not vacancies.
Okay. I had thought that Tom, the other night, maybe 3-4 weeks ago at a Lansingburg neighborhood meeting, mentioned he had 1 or 2 vacant on top of a couple people out. And he had stated he was having a tough time. I could be wrong, but saying that we do want to see monies going into the temporary salaries line and adding 1 sanitation person.
Chair.
Yep, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Monica, I was under the assumption they were, not only did they have the 3 people out on compensation, they also had 2 vacancies based on looking at page 200 under the residential pickups. Looks like.
So on the vacancy list,
I'm sorry, I apologize. It looks like
sorry.
proposing 2 new hires on page 200.
so there was, hold on.
Actually, 3 new hires.
So the page 200, the change from 27 to 30 is reflective of the 2 sanitation persons and the account clerk.
Right.
There's no vacant positions right now in the garbage fund.
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
But we have 3 that are out that we don't know when they're coming back.
Correct, but I can't hire yes, but I can't hire them because they're still employees. They're just out on workers' comp.
Right, okay.
They're still employees.
Yep. And so we're proposing to just add the 1 sanitation person and then add monies to the temporary fund rather than full-time positions. And that concludes our proposed amendments. Saying that we feel, we've worked very hard, all of us, going through the budget line by line. We're trying, obviously, to, not just put all of this burden onto the taxpayers and residents. At the same time, increase the quality of service, increase efficiencies. We'd like to see, as I stated earlier, more of a detailed strategic overall plan for some of these departments, more synergy. And our goal is to get that property tax hike down to 0, try to shave the garbage, the annual garbage fee, and at the same time, work with our departments to give them the tools they need to get the job done, but at the same time, challenge our departments to be more efficient and more proactive and cross those borders and work more cohesively and coordinated. So we thank you for listening. and where we go from here. Did anyone have any other comments?
Council
President,
Councilmember Steele and then Monica.
I would really like Andy to give us an overview. We've listened in detail to what we already received from you folks. I'd like to hear from him as well, if he's willing to do that. Thank you.
So just before he jumps on that, Council President.
Sure, Monica.
So just to I just want to clarify, because I want to make sure we got all the positions that are going to stay in, just to verify. So you have the DEI at the changes, that's fine. The Secretary to the Civil Service Commission under Personnel, the Building Maintenance Mechanic under Facilities, the Sign Maintenance Person under Traffic, Senior Account Clerk under Fire, 1 laborer for Streets, 2 Planning Commission members under the Planning Commission, and 1 sanitation person under the Sanitation Department. I just wanted to make sure those are the remaining positions on the list.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Andy, go ahead.
So I had sent out at about 4:30 this afternoon what these amendments would reflect in the budget. Grand total in the general fund, $626,467, and in the garbage fund, a reduction of $30,250 after reviewing all amendments.
Thank you, Andy. I did have a question, Andy, and I was going to call you on the way home, but unfortunately I got tied up with something else. If our proposal to pause the reassessment, because obviously that was a chunk, you know, of one of our proposals. So the total is 250, and 125 this year, 125 next year. So 125 was included in our initial. So we obviously have taken that out. However, if that were to pass, to pause it, I'm just, you know, throwing that out there. It probably won't. But if that were to pass, 125 for next year would be out. The 125 for this year, would we be able, because obviously you're rolling that over, you're not going to pay GAR 125 on December 30th, you know, to begin this, obviously. So, you know, my question is, can a new council come in next year and eliminate that 125? And I guess what I don't understand is how it rolls over to 2022.
I think
we can't. So, Council President, if the budget passes without the funding in it, if the contract passed on December, we would actually pull the contract before the December 2nd, because we can't sign a contract that doesn't have funding behind it.
Right, I get that, but yes, the budget will pass before it if we were to phase out. I mean, obviously we're 3 and 4. I'm saying, okay, so say the budget passes, contracts approved, new council comes in, there's a very strong desire to pause it. You know, obviously eliminating that funding of 250 will certainly pause it. But I guess I don't understand, and this is why I'm asking Andy, because we always talk about, like, you know, hard cash, you know, on paper. The 125 obviously was approved in the budget. It's funding. Will you create a special line for it to carry it over in 2022? Does it automatically roll over? Or is it just on paper? I guess You know, how would,
If the-
no, go ahead.
I guess, I hope this answers the question. If the GAR contract passed, the city would issue a purchase order in 2021 for $125,000. That, and any open purchase order in the general fund would roll over to the 2022 fiscal year. And that is how the funding has to be procured and encumbered in order for it to roll to the next fiscal year. If my office supply line at the end of the fiscal year has $300 remaining unspent and not on a purchase order with it, that funding goes away. Budget balances do not transcend fiscal years. Open purchase orders transcend fiscal years, which is how it would roll over. I do want to note one instance as well that was just discussed, though. If in an event that the amendment to not fund the GAR contract passed on November 30th, as the deputy mayor just mentioned, the contract on December 2nd would get pulled.
Right.
And that is because before a contract is executed in the mayor's office, I need to sign that the contract is adequately funded for. I would not be able to sign that document attesting to that the funding is there for the contract.
Got it. Totally.
Now, if the council passed the funding on next week, if they passed on December 2nd the contract, and then jumped to January 3rd, and there was or January 2nd or whatever date, there was an ordinance or
It would be an
ordinance passed saying to cancel the contract, that would be a legal question. We'll have to go down whether we could breach the contract.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
I did want to add, I apologize also for not adding this. It's not a budget amendment, but we do agree, the minority, with the proposal for the fire department in terms of a short-term, long-term. So we agree, should it be feasible, using ARP funding for overtime and a fourth ambulance. And we do agree to bring in an unbiased firm to immediately review the ambulance model and staffing. So we do, the minority supports that. And the reason I bring that up, it was a big topic during the budget and the public safety budget meeting. So we do support that. One of the other things, we did have a question, and I think we didn't really review, is in 2023, there's talk about the per barrel, and in the mayor's message, Mayor, you talk about or at least putting the foundation in for that in 2022 for implementation for 2023. Where in the budget is there anything outlining that, foundation building for the per barrel for 2023?
So as we talked about during the sanitation hearing, the ability to take the time to, as you and I've always had this conversation, being able to take the time to be able to build a program, also takes staff. The account clerk was one of the key pieces on that, and being able to pull together a lot of the registration process, the sign-up process, and all of that stuff to jump into 2023 so that on January 1st of 2023, the barrel system and multi-size barrel system could be put into effect. Leading up to that point in time, there was a delayed hiring, I believe, of that position. There was work to be done in, we've already obviously had some of the public conversations, have more public conversations, have general services meetings with the city council, bring everybody to the conversation. It's all something we've been talking about. Council member Kim Ash McPherson has had numerous conversations with us about adding barrels and making sure there's barrels in place throughout the city, throughout all of our properties. And then the differing sizes is something that's always been mentioned as well in the past instead of pay-as-you-throw. But being able to build a system, we can't do it in 4 weeks. We can't do it in 6 weeks. But being able to take the year to be able to get the education, the outreach, Renee talked a lot about that during her council hearing, being able to get the word out, get these other programs established so that when people do get the bin that they need, they're already exercising the other alternatives and the alternative methods of disposal. So it was about program building, but that account clerk was a key person to be able to pull that program administratively into place, as well as assist the other account clerk in the billing process.
Yeah, we did discuss the account clerk, and we really feel Renee's new assistant can certainly pull that together. We did talk about that, and we just felt, looking back at notes, we did talk about that. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything that we were missing in the garbage fund for, what obviously the administration is looking at in 2022 for 2023. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything in that department. So, but we did talk about the account clerk. We talked about, we were fortunate to get the state grant for Renee's assistant. And obviously, now that I believe we might get 20% for 2022, if that. So obviously that's now coming on to the taxpayers and residents. So we just felt that that one person was enough for Renee right now. So.
Council President, can you clarify the 20% part? Is that the USDA grant you're talking about?
No, wasn't the Renee's assistant was paid for, I believe in 2021, 80%, 80-20 through state grant. And in 2022.
So it's actually,
yeah.
The DEC grant is actually a 50% grant.
Okay.
And then the 80-20 is the USDA grant.
Okay.
That was just received for the composting initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be clear, the recycling assistant, which is the other individual we added this year, is the recycling assistant, not account clerk. The job duties of such are two very different job duties.
Right, and that's one of our themes is that, and believe me, I oversaw 600 people. There are job duties, but there are also, working cohesively within various departments on other duties. And we all know that, especially in government, many folks work above and beyond what their job description is. It's unfortunately the necessary evil sometimes of going into government. You do more with less. So a lot of folks going into government know, you're going to work, double because you just don't have the staffs like you used to have. So, but we did talk about that, Monica, so thank you.
Council President.
We'll hit Council Member Cummings and then Monica.
I just wanted to get clarification. The DEC 50% match is continuous, right? It's not expiring.
Not that we're aware of. Yeah, but that's actually 50% of not just salaries. That's also 50% of some of the education lines, some of the printing and advertising lines. There's a whole
They split the cost of
the
recycling services, essentially. Recycling.
Yeah,
education.
they actually do equipment too occasionally.
Right.
Thanks, Council Member. Monica? Anything else?
Oh, never mind. Never mind. It's not worth the conversation.
All right. So did other council members?
But Council President, I'm not sure Andy really ever got to finish what I was hoping you would do for us, and that would be to, given all of these cuts and reductions in the services that our taxpayers call us about every day, what will be the result? What's the bottom line, Andy?
Hold on one second. Stay tuned.
And Council President, while we're waiting for that, so your initial email this morning had $900,000 worth of reductions, correct?
Yep, it included the 125, so we got to deduct that immediately.
Yeah, well, in other words, you had 250 total, but you can't really use the 250. So now you're down to the 125, so you take that off the 900.
Mhm.
And then I think Andy's calculations were somewhere in, it was somewhere between 600,000 and 700,000. Is that correct or not?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Which I applaud my minority colleagues. While Andy's doing that, I just want to say, we didn't take out a scalpel. We looked at every department. We, listened, obviously, justification of the new positions. And I really want to applaud my minority colleagues for spending, I spent about 6 hours on Saturday and another 4 we spent on Sunday. And they really did a phenomenal job, did not take out a scalpel. And I believe this is a very balanced proposal. Andy?
So the general fund, the reduction of $626,467 would lead to a tax decrease of 0.05%. So basically the same as 2021. It would reduce the garbage fee. Total expenditure reduction of $30,250 would bring the garbage fee per unit to $217.
That's
And
interesting.
Andy, what's our tax? I apologize.
0.05%.
Okay. Okay.
Andy, can we check that garbage number again? Did you go over that garbage number again, how you calculated that?
I took the expenditure reduction of $30,250, ran it over the formula, which is total expenditures less other revenues. The total remaining balance divided by 15,705 comes out to $217.
That makes me feel a lot better. I actually thought I heard you say $117. Okay. Yes, I did get nervous.
Now, dear Jim, don't get nervous.
Reaching in my drawer for my emotions right now, Susan.
Now, dear.
Levity is wonderful. Okay, well, a lot of discussion. We are hoping that the council majority takes a look at these. Obviously, the council minority spent a lot of time on these. It would have been great to maybe go over some specifics that the majority is looking at. I would, obviously, that garbage fee. I'll tell you, the garbage fund, I think it started out temporary. I had the stats on that. It's going up about 16%, I believe, when first proposed to now. It's increasing every year. Somehow we need to put our heads together, obviously, to bring that fee down.
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Steele.
Yes, the cost of dealing with garbage is going up. And I think our taxpayers are aware of that. And if they are looking at other ways to dispose of their garbage, they're going to realize that they're getting a good deal with the city of Troy. I also feel, you know, we've talked a lot about the taxpayers tonight and how we want to save them money. The budget that we had before us, the tax increase equates to about 1 cup of gourmet coffee a month. So I'm not sure that's going to break a taxpayer. What we will hear about, though, is that our streets, the garbage isn't being picked up, the leaf bags aren't being picked up, the potholes. We're going to hear about all the services that are not being delivered, and you don't deliver services without investing in your workforce and in your equipment. And by gutting it, as this proposal will do, puts us right back where we were 10 years ago. We have watched our city struggle to provide services with bare bones staff. Why turn the clock back to save $3? Doesn't make sense. My 2 cents worth.
Only 2?
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
I understand your passion, Councilwoman Steele, but the reality is we're not looking to gut. We're looking to transition. We're looking to take some of those full-time appointments and turn them into a temporary staff that can feed and fund every department on a daily basis so we can give 100% efficiency to the people of Troy. It's not as though we're looking to gut or take out or eliminate. What we're doing is using the people's money in a different way to create a venue and an avenue to create that service without costing one arm and leg on the back end. So I think this could be a good program. I hope, I feel that there's some interest by the administration to dig into this. I think it's going to be a great transition for the city to help us in the future. So at no time were we thinking, let's just cut this out, let's just cut that out. We were thinking, how can we utilize that funding to do something different? And moving it into temporary salaries and trying to transition our workforce to a more fluid workforce could be a benefit for the taxpayers and a benefit for the administration. We'd stop getting many of those calls if we could fill all the trucks and fill all the spots on a daily basis. And I'm hoping that you'll understand that and work with us, because this is nothing about gutting or destroying. This is about rebuilding, reloading, and regrowing in a more positive way for the administration to make their jobs easier and the taxpayers to take some of the pressure off of them. So I'm sorry that you felt that way, but that was never my intention or the minority's intention when we put these numbers together. And I hope you can understand that.
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Steele.
I do understand, and that is one element that's certainly worth looking at. But that's just one part of the cuts here. And so that doesn't address the damage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Steele. And, to dovetail what Councilmember Gully stated, we have different philosophies. That's all this is. And, our philosophy is think more creatively, really try to challenge our city departments to utilize their staff more efficiently. A couple of them fill some of the vacancies before proposing new positions, and just really dig deep and start thinking more strategically. Sometimes, and believe me, I saw a canal overseeing 600 people. You ask them, what do you want in your departments? The first thing that comes about, staff. We didn't have the money. And frankly, we literally ended up more efficient by the time I left after 5 years, more efficient, doing more out in the field with literally over 100 less people, including temporary and full-time. So, saying that, I think it's just different philosophy, and we just really feel that the temporary salaries proposal will be something new, creative, and something that'll help our departments out in the field. And we honestly really did not take a scalpel with this proposed budget. We obviously kept a number of positions and put some money in temporary, and at the same time, challenge our departments to be more strategic, creative. And if they really feel they need a position, we'll take a look at it in June after they, are out in the field and come to us with a detailed plan. Who is looking to speak with their hand up in the administration?
Council President?
Yep. Monica.
So tonight is, so I just want to clarify process as Andy and I move forward over this holiday week. Tonight was supposed to be all of the amendments proposed. Tomorrow is the final budget hearing to hear the proposed versus the amendments put forward. And then Tuesday is the vote. Are we, because there's some consideration being done, can you let us know, and I don't know, this could be collectively to the full council, when we might get the final amendments, and is there a need for a public hearing following that so that the public can hear what those final amendments are prior to the vote? And this is just a clarifying process. I'm not questioning, I'm just trying to get clear.
Yeah, clearly it appears, we're the only ones putting forth amendments. I guess, to be more specific, does the majority intend to put forward amendments? I mean, rather than keeping us in the dark here, I'm just trying to get a read.
We have, Council President, as I mentioned to Councilmember Gully, or communicated with Councilmember Gully earlier. We're keeping an open line of communication, and we have some goals that I think we share with you. We don't have the specific steps. We don't necessarily agree on the specific steps with you to get there, but we definitely want to see some savings for taxpayers. But let me I'll say that briefly, that we want to either or get the garbage fee reduced to a more manageable amount, or get the tax increase down. It's true the tax increase is not substantial at all. It's not going to I mean, look, any increase in someone's budget always, everyone will complain about an increase in what they have to pay. But such an increase is certainly nothing compared to, for example, gas prices and how they've gone up recently, right? And that's really hitting people hard. The tax increase will not hit people anywhere near that. But I think we all have to be cognizant of the fact that we want to keep costs down all the time. Like that's our goal. And so we share that with you. We're not exactly sure what portions of what subset of your cuts would be amenable to us. And, we may have some other ideas on how to find some cost savings, but there's definitely some overlap this year that we did not see last year. So I think that's a starting point. And I did pledge that to Councilman Gully that, we keep these lines of communication open and find places where we agree. So, but no, we will not have anything before the public hearing tomorrow, as far as I can tell. So.
Okay. So we'll have a public hearing tomorrow on the proposed budget, obviously the council minorities amendments. I can always schedule a public hearing. Of course, my battery's low. A public hearing on Tuesday. But saying that, let's see what we get back from the majority, and we'll take it from there. Certainly, the goal is obviously to, from our standpoint, continue to really see our departments be more efficient. At the same time, we're open if there's stronger justification, as I said, next year. But we want to see a little more detailed specific plans.
Council
So,
President?
yep,
I just want, and this is, I know it's not going to come out the right way, but I already made this comment at one of our previous meetings where it was probably a general services. I think it was the sanitation meeting where I felt that, you were being hard on the sanitation folks and, really targeting them for, finding efficiencies. And we've already been over it. I'm not going to rehash that, but I just want to ask this question, and it's completely out of curiosity. Has anyone, and that includes my own colleagues, my own Democratic colleagues, has anyone decided to look for efficiencies in the two largest departments in the city? And by that, I mean police and fire. Has anyone, we're going to have this analysis done by the administration, but we're talking about, delay hiring, and let's fill vacant positions, and let's ask the sanitation workers, and let's ask the folks in recycling, and let's ask, personnel, let's ask all these departments to find efficiencies and to collaborate more effectively and to, be more efficient in their daily duties. But, the two largest departments of the city, no one's talking about that. No one's talking about police and fire at all. Are there any efficiencies that can be gained in how they do their work? Or are we just passing it over? I mean, I put it out there just because no one discusses it. Is it off limits, or that's all I'm asking.
Council President?
yes, I have to plug in if you're wondering where I went my cord. I had 2 hours set up. Once again,
Did you hear what I was asking?
I did.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. I got 2/3 of it, but I think I got the gist. I had to run upstairs.
Council
It's
President?
an honest question. Like, I just feel like we're brushing over the big elephant in the room, so.
Councilmember Gully.
Councilman Zaluski, to answer your question, yes, I have had contact with both Chief McMahon and Eric Wisher on the TFD side. I have not met with Chief Dan DeWolf yet. I will. I have had conversations with the previous PBA president, Nick Laviano. I just met Chuck Castle last week. As I try to reach out and introduce myself to the guys coming in and, just find out a little bit about them. Yeah, we need efficiency in all our departments. Let's face it. But I have to say that, when it comes to public safety, that's a whole different ball of wax from our sanitation department because of the way they have to service our residents. They go there in the most detrimental time of anyone's life. And that's never a good thing. So we have to also have a little respect to find out what we can do to create an efficiency without hurting their process. Right now, we know they go on numerous calls and ridiculous calls. I know a lot of people talk about defunding the police. I don't believe in that, but I do believe in de-obligating. And I think that the city needs to work towards getting some of these nonprofit businesses in our city to step up when it comes to mental disabilities, drug addiction, homelessness. That's their game. Yet our police and firemen are responding to hundreds of calls every month to handle those claims. And we need to find a way to find and fix that for them. And we need to find out how we can help them be able to serve the public better. And until we can get a grasp on a couple of these other pieces, how could we ever audit that department to find out if it is effective? Because they're doing so many numerous wide range calls that go from a guy with a gun to a guy with a big voice. So, I mean, it's just hard to tell. But yes, that'll take a long term to really get into, but it has to start. And I think it has started back from last year. I think it has started to be looked at. And I'll continue to have conversations with every one of our leaders to find out how we can better enhance their operations, because those operations affect how our citizens and our residents live in our city.
Yeah, and real quick, I know that there was the other night, Councilmember Zaluski, discussion regarding the garbage fund and, why scrutinize it, so heavy in terms of, compared to maybe a couple other departments. From me, I believe all departments were scrutinized tenfold, at least from where I sit. I literally went line by line. But for me personally, with the garbage fund, it's so new. And if you look, in 2020, the garbage fund was at 4.2. Now today, it's a $5 million department that's only been around for 4 years. So to me, it's new. It's a new $5 million department. And even though this department was kind of dispersed because taxpayers were paying for it out of their taxes before separating the fee, it's a whole new ball of wax. So to me, I just see it growing. I see staffing grow, equipment, et cetera, and up to 5 mil now. So I'm honestly getting a grip because it is such a new department, new funding. The employees have been separated out. The bulk, obviously we didn't charge, 4 years ago. So to me, being such a new department, I'm just trying to get a grip on where they're going and, how we can control the expense on the taxpayers and residents while continuing to provide the service, and at the same time not have our taxpayers moving to private contractors, because that's certainly happening at a rapid rate. So it's a new department, and as Councilmember Gully stated, with our public safety departments, from where I sit, I am scrutinizing their departments' budgets, challenging them, and every day, not just budget time.
All right, Council President, I'll just respond to that briefly. I don't feel like, I know what you're saying. I think it's a new fund. I think, the garbage fund is a new fund. I don't consider sanitation to be a new department. The department's been around for decades and decades. So, even though the money it's a separate pot of money, and I think the mayor did that to make it, well, for a variety of reasons, I'm sure, but it's to reflect the true cost of sanitation, right? I mean, I think that's what the whole point of that was. But it's not a new department. It's not like suddenly, a few years ago, we created this new department of garbage and we have to analyze it because it's so new and we can't figure it out. I mean, we've been doing it for decades and decades. So, and it's fine. I'm not even challenging that. Like, I'm just saying, I feel like that at least at that meeting, and now I'm here, with your proposals, there's a lot of targeting on that area of the city. And we're not looking at, the other departments. And again, that's me as well. I don't know how to analyze for example, the fire department. I don't know what they do all day long. I have no idea if they're efficient or not. It's the same questions you're asking about sanitation. You can ask about almost any department, like what's really happening and how efficient are they, and are they using their time to their maximum potential and all of that. I have no idea. And maybe that's my own failing, that I haven't been able to delve into that deeply enough to figure it out. But I just, like I said, I just asked that question. I feel like we're definitely focused on one area and not other areas. And I just wanted to point it out. I don't know what the answer is to that, honestly.
Yeah. And what I will say is that the fire department, we are supportive, the minority at least, of a short-term, long-term, a full-fledged firm coming in unbiased to look at their staffing, to look at their ambulance model. Yep. So in terms of your question on that, I know that the minority supports that effort twofold.
Yeah, we do too, of course.
Yeah, and I do want to just mention, it's not something new. And I saw Councilmember Steele kind of, laugh. But it is now separated out as its full-fledged $5 million department, where I mentioned it was dispersed before. So essentially, you had sanitation, you had other departments. Now we've broken it out into its own department. It continues to build. we continue with the new assistant to the recycling. Obviously, what are you doing in terms of justification for that position? It's a new effort that's underway with that department. So I am curious, what is the per barrel? I still don't know. I guess we'll learn them for the next year. So there's a lot of questions with that department, for me at least. And, you know, we'll keep delving into it. So. All right.
Council President?
Yes, Monica.
Yep, just one more follow-up question. On the amendments that were proposed in the conversation from this evening, there was no mention of the capital plan. Part of our work includes submitting legislation now ahead of the wait period time for that to be on your desks. Andy has submitted all of that document. We're assuming there's no changes to the capital plan?
From the minority, we'll take a look at it when we receive the legislation. We certainly heard, you know, all of the conversations, discussions concerning the capital plan. Saying that, the council minority right now is not going to give a thumbs up individually on each project. And when we receive that legislation, we'll discuss it.
Thank you.
Yep. So further discussion, questions? Okay.
I'll just say that I can smell barbecue because Ironworks had the fundraiser for Trip
Yes,
tonight.
I know.
And so I bought chicken on the way home, barbecue chicken, and it's permeating the house. Like the last time it was pizza, now it's barbecue chicken. So
Oh, I am so jealous. I wanted to stop, but I had to hit the pharmacy. So I hope to hit their next one. That's awesome.
yep.
And they have the best, like, I feel, barbecue these days.
I could tell you,
saying
I'm ready to walk out here.
I know that Councilmember Gully is itching to watch the Giants game. Is there any further conversation except for go Bucks? And I won't mention my Buffalo Bills. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilmember Zaluski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion?
Just waiting to hear if she's not.
Enjoy your barbecue.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Good night. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.